Greetings from Hunting Island State Park, South Carolina. This is the most visited state park in South Carolina. Over 1,200,000 people a year visit this unique park. And here behind me you can see the lighthouse. And what's unique about this lighthouse, not only was it built in the 1800s, it's I think the only lighthouse that's open to the public that you can climb up that thing. And this is the grounds that we are. The keeper used to live right here. And this is kind of some of the exhibit of what went on here and what it was like here. And we're going to kind of look in here. And again, we're on Hunting Island State Park. It's right on the coast. The ocean is right out there. We'll go look at that. And these are just some old photographs of the keepers. And there's a picture of the house here. And one of the unique things about the house here, this was it. Here's a sign right here. Alone with the sea, no neighbors, no schoolmates, no churches, no shops, just the sea. And you could see they just had the house. Their job was to keep the light open or working so ships wouldn't come too close to the coast and hit sandbars and get stuck or wreck. And they produced and grew their own food. And again, these are some of the things, some of the old relics from here. And I guess here's some more of the people that lived close here and worked. So let's go over here and see what's in this little exhibit hall. And again, big camping is here, and this is the most visited state park in South Carolina. And it is beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And tons of palmetto trees are the state tree, the state symbol for South Carolina. Let's look in here. And I think in this little exhibit house here, it shows all the lighthouses in South Carolina, where they are and so forth. And I'm familiar with some of them. There's one in Georgetown, which is halfway up the coast, and Cape Romaine up the coast north of here. Of course, we're the southern tip, where we are now. This is in Charleston. That's Sullivan's Island. That's Morris. This is kind of, it's obviously not working, but it's off of, I think, on the very edge of between Sullivan's Island or just south of Charleston Harbor on Folly Beach, Hunting Island Lighthouse, where we are right here. And this is in Hilton Head. And a neat little exhibit right here. And a little trivia question. And I'll tell you at the end. I hope I remember to tell you at the end. Which state, all along the whole coastline, both the West Coast and the East Coast, or just all over the United States, which state has the largest amount of lighthouses? Think about it a little bit, what you might, and I missed that when I tried to guess it. I had to look it up. I missed it by a bunch. Here, again, you can see the lighthouse, and you can go up that thing, which I don't think I could do that. So I used to be really, really afraid of heights, and I've gotten better, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And this is the kind of the layout of the plans of the elevation for the house that was here, the keeper, that made sure that the light was always working. And that's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Okay, walking up, if you can kind of see the Hunting Island Lighthouse. And another thing about this lighthouse, it was built, I believe, in the middle 1800s. And I think it was torn down during the Civil War. And then again, it was rebuilt in, I think, 1873 after. And I think in 1893, there was a very severe hurricane that destroyed the northern part of Hunting Island. And they had to move this. So, and this is where it is right here. And it's all the original materials are still there, the cast iron and so forth. How you doing, sir?
Doing fine. How are you?
Wonderful, and just trying to tell everybody what do you know much about the lighthouse here?
I do, yes.
And what is your name, sir?
My name is Ted Panyatoff.
Hey, Ted.
I'm the Lighthouse Director for the Friends of Hutting Island.
Isn't that neat? Well, let me put my mask on, Ted, and again, this was the one that was rebuilt in 1873, correct?
Well, yes, it wasn't rebuilt. This was the one that was built, but it wasn't built at this location.
All right, let me get over here, Ted, so I'm not looking in the sun.
Okay.
So this was the second location. The first location was in the northern part of the island, correct?
Correct. It was about 1.25 miles north of here.
Okay. And again, why did they move it to here?
Because of the beach erosion.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they knew they had a beach erosion problem from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But the appropriation that was passed by Congress to build a lighthouse specified that the lighthouse had to be built on government property.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Cool.
So that end of the island up there had been taken by the federal government for non-payment of taxes during the Civil War.
How about them apples?
So
Okay.
they owned that, but the Lighthouse Service knew that they had an erosion problem. They could see from old charts that
it's going to get worse.
The land was eroding away.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently they didn't want to deal with the requirement to build it on government property and try to get that changed. So they did the next best thing.
Right.
The lighthouse was designed so it could be taken apart.
That's just amazing.
You see these plates here.
Yes, I do.
Those are that's just some sealant that was put there. These are bolted together. They're about 1,200 pounds. Each of those plates is about 1,200 pounds.
Good gracious.
Down at the bottom here.
Yeah, you can see,
they're cast iron.
Right.
They're about an inch and a quarter thick down at the bottom.
Right.
And then as you get up toward the very top, they reduce down to about 3/4 of an inch.
Wow. Good gracious.
The inside of the lighthouse is lined with brick. That's primarily just a insulation material. It doesn't really contribute that much to the actual structure.
That is interesting. I wouldn't think that. Okay, that's fascinating.
About a 6-inch gap. The bricks are 9 inches wide. And there's about a 6-inch gap between the brick and the cast iron.
Can we go look at that inside there? Just take a look.
Yeah, at the bottom here you can see that.
Yeah.
Let me put my phone in my pocket.
Okay.
But
gosh, this is just fascinating. Just fascinating.
So I'm not. What is your channel?
Fred, I have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
It's called The Silver-Haired Traveler, and I go all over South Carolina and just show everyone the hidden gems, the neat things that are here in South Carolina.
This is one of the hidden gems.
It sure is.
You can see the brick here.
Sure can.
And
Look at that.
Where this black line is.
I see that.
Here, that's at a joint between the plates. It's not like every joint, but like maybe every other joint. There's a plate that comes out like this.
Okay.
And then that ties into the brick, so that the brick is every, at every
gracious.
couple of levels, the brick is tied to that exterior cast iron.
Let me look straight up here if you can see that. Ted, this is going to be a silly question. Do you ever climb this thing?
Oh, absolutely.
God bless you. I can't do that.
But I do get up there, yes.
Wow.
And
isn't this something?
Some of the other things you can see down here, I'll point out.
Sure.
First thing is this pit here. There was a weight possibly looking like this. This is just a reproduction.
I gotcha.
That weight weighed 270 pounds. So obviously this one doesn't.
270 pounds.
And
Good
there was
gracious.
a cable. This one is just tied off.
I
just
see.
Up there.
Yeah.
There was a cable that ran all the way up to the top. And
Oh, wow.
over here, this is a photograph. Happens to be on a lighthouse in the Great Lakes, but anyway. And there was a clockwork motor like this there that was run by this weight. The weight went down into that pit. There. Pit was probably somewhat deeper than it is now. You know, over the years it's got trash in it. And then the weight only went up just as far as this crossbeam.
Okay,
So
interesting.
about every 2.5 hours, or 2 3/4 hours, as I say here, but they probably did it more frequently. The keeper that was on watch up there was always somebody on watch at night.
You mean up there? They were up there?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Just to make sure that the light was working properly, and every 2 3/4 hours he had to wind that weight up to keep the lens rotating.
That's what that was for.
Make
Fascinating.
the lens rotate, sort of like
Wow.
a grandfather clock system.
Isn't that fascinating?
And that
Golly
cable
day.
was like 150 feet long or so, and they
Isn't that, and that would just like grandfather clocks, that makes it
Just
move, the
same
gears
exact-
move, yeah.
The companies that made this
Uh-huh.
also made the same equipment, like for your clock in your town hall, you know, that ran the hours and that sort of thing.
That is so cool. And you know what else is cool, Ted? And again, we think we live and there's a lot of technology we have, but this technology back then was the state of the art,
Oh, absolutely.
and it worked extremely well. So cool.
This tank
Wow.
over here,
Uh-huh.
there were 6 of these tanks
Uh-huh.
here. You can see on the drawing, this is
Yeah.
the drawing. We have a full set of drawings of the lighthouse from the National Archives.
That is so cool. Okay.
And there were 6 of these tanks. These tanks held the fuel for the lighthouse before it was moved here in 1889, 1888.
1889.
Over the winter of 1888-89
Right.
was when it was moved from its original
Right.
location to this location
And
here.
Ted, what was the fuel that they used?
The fuel that was in here was lard oil.
Lard?
Basically lard.
Good gracious. How about them
And-
apples?
Which not too bad here. It doesn't get that cold here.
Right.
Lard up in Maine
Uh-huh.
was a real problem. The keeper had to literally take a bucket of this stuff, heat it up on the kitchen stove, get it
How
poured
about
into
that?
the lamp,
Jeez,
get the
sakes.
lamp lit.
Uh-huh.
Once the lamp was lit, there was enough residual heat to keep the lard so it would
Isn't
flow.
that golly
So the
day?
reason they switched to lard
Uh-huh.
was the original fuel, not ever at this lighthouse,
Uh-huh.
but earlier lighthouses, was whale oil.
Wow.
Whales were starting to get fished out.
How about that?
The,
Yeah.
the New England whalers were really efficient.
Yeah, and doing
And they were,
yeah.
they were literally decimating the whale
Yeah.
whale population.
Exactly. Gosh.
In order to get whale oil, you had to go all the way up in the Bering Sea off
Alaska. Gosh.
from Cape,
Who in the heck would know
you
that?
know, from New England, Cape Cod, where the whaling industry was located, to get all the way around there, fill up a whaling vessel and come back was a 3-year trip.
Holy moly.
Price of whale oil went
Yeah.
through the roof.
Had to have. Exactly. No question.
So the Lighthouse Service said, you know, there's got to be, and not only here in the U.S., in other lighthouses
Sure,
around
yeah,
the world, they were having
right.
the same problem. So in Europe, they switched to a vegetable oil based on rapeseed oil, like we have vegetable oil today,
Yeah.
based on seeds.
Yeah.
But the plants for that were not grown here in the U.S.
I see.
So rather than be dependent, you know, trying to get U.S. farmers to grow these or being dependent on supplies from a foreign country, we switched to lard oil. The reason,
Wow.
of course, people knew about petroleum products, but the
Yeah.
refining
Exactly.
technology was
Wasn't-
not up to the
Yeah, it wasn't there yet.
requirements
Yeah.
for the Lighthouse service. It
Gosh.
had very, very stringent requirements on the fact that the oil couldn't give off any smoke or any kind of...
Good. Yeah. That exactly.
like
That's a
that.
good. Yeah. Who would have thought that? Yeah.
So
Cool.
it wasn't until about the 1880s or so that the refining technology was good enough to meet the specifications of the Lighthouse service. And then the Lighthouse service started switching over to kerosene, or oil,
Gotcha.
as it was called.
Cool.
Problem with kerosene, see, you could have, each one of these things held 100 gallons. You could have 600 gallons of lard oil stored in here.
Yeah.
It would be perfectly safe.
Yeah.
Lard oil doesn't give off any fumes.
Not like. Yeah. Exactly.
Kerosene gives off fumes. You put 600 gallons of kerosene in here,
Oh, there's no
and
telling.
you've got a potentially serious problem,
Right.
because you've got the fumes going up this,
You sure do.
up this
Like a
thing.
chimney. Like a chimney. Up all the way up there.
Just like a chimney.
Holy
So
moly!
that was
It's a draft. There's some people that are walking down there. It forms a draft. Yeah.
When they moved the lighthouse to this location, they built that little brick building there. Called the oil house. That was where the kerosene was stored.
Okay.
And the only kerosene that was in here was the kerosene that was in
The
the
actual.
light,
The light.
up there. And every morning, the last guy on watch, when he shut the light down, a half hour after sunrise, he got everything ready for
The next
for
night.
The next night. He would drain whatever leftover oil
Isn't this
was in the
something?
light, so to make sure he started with absolutely fresh oil with no debris or anything
Yeah.
in it, because the oil circulated through the lighting system.
Keep talking. I'm listening. Hey, gang.
He would drain the oil out of the reservoir of the lamp, bring it down here, go in the oil house, then refill his special carrying.
Yeah. Whatever it is he carried it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a special
Gosh.
can that sealed very tightly, had a spout that had a cap on the end of it, so there wasn't any danger of spilling kerosene in it.
Golly day.
And he would then bring refill the lamp,
Ready for the next watch.
ready
Gosh.
for the next evening,
Right.
and do everything else up there that had to be.
Ted, let me ask you something. Supposing, and I'm sure it happens, with this, obviously this would stand a hurricane if a hurricane came by, or what's the?
In 1893, yes.
Golly day. Well, Ted, this is just remarkable. I mean, I wish when people come, you got to check this place out. It's just, it was truly amazing. It's so cool.
This lens here is not the original lens from this lighthouse. This lens was
Is that what they would look like, though? It kind of like this? Would it project out, or how does it project out?
okay. Well, that would be that light that we have there.
Yeah.
Is at approximately the focal point of the
Right.
lens.
Uh-huh.
And so those prisms. This is just the top part of the lens. It's this
Oh, I
part
see.
of the
Yes,
lens here.
it's the top part. Yeah, not the big part.
Yeah.
Okay.
The big part is
Would be
here.
right in here.
It's missing. This lens was complete when it was put
Gosh,
here
yeah.
in the early 1960s. But then there wasn't any real security, and over the years, people broke parts of it or
Wow.
took parts of it, and it's really sad. But this lens was in the original Charleston light, now called the Morris Island
Yeah,
light.
more silent. Know what that is.
And
How about
up
that?
It's off of Folly Beach.
Yeah, Folly Beach. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
It used to be on an island, but it
Yes,
was
it's-
totally eroded away.
Gosh.
And this light was in storage up in Charleston up until the early 60s.
Neat.
And then the Coast Guard, that was then responsible for lighthouses, donated it to the state, and it was put on exhibit here, but it wasn't really taken care of, unfortunately. And,
Wow, this is neat.
In fact, we've got to come in here. I've got several people, and we work, and we clean
Yeah.
the lens.
Right.
You can see there's a problem with it. Somewhere along the line, someone came up with the idea. It was starting when the lens was originally here. This wooden structure wasn't here.
I got you.
Also,
I see.
If you look carefully, you can see some steel
Yes, I do.
pieces in there.
Yeah.
Well, somebody added that to the lens. The lens is in a bronze frame, and the bronze frame is all bolted together. But they introduced the steel. You can see it.
Yep, I can see
You know
it.
what happens when you put bronze and steel together?
I do not.
You form a battery.
A battery.
There's
a current.
Actually come in here with a
Get outta here.
multimeter, and I can read voltage between the steel and the bronze.
That's so
And
cool.
that's not much.
But still, it's producing a current.
But it produces a very small current.
Get out.
Over the years,
Right.
that is slowly eating that steel away. You can see how it's
I can
all
see
rusted.
it. I can see it.
Now, the problem is,
Crazy.
not only is that, of course, weakening that steel, so
Yeah.
it isn't doing what they thought it was going to do, but when steel rusts, you know, it expands.
Correct.
And what's happening around on this side, I can show you. See how the prisms, see where it's pulled apart
I
there?
do. Yes, I do. Wow.
There where there's
see that.
the frame, and I mean, there's a couple of inches there. I stick my hand.
I can see that. Yeah.
And the problem is that a lot of those prisms are loose. And
Wow.
this time last year, we cleaned that lens. It hadn't been cleaned in probably since it was put up there. It was so filthy dirty you couldn't see any light coming through it at all. We got to clean it again.
Well, I think it looks fantastic. I mean, you look just super job.
You've got to.
Let me look up there
It's getting
again.
dirty again over the top.
Gosh.
It's dusty in here.
Jeez.
You have to be very careful. You can see over here where we had to put these pieces of wood in there.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, little shims.
Those shims.
Yeah.
In order to keep to
Golly.
steady those prisms.
Yeah.
So we could get in there and gradually clean them.
Got it.
And that was a process that took about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we had several step ladders in here. We had a mobile.
It is an operation, I'm sure.
We had a
Yeah.
movable scaffold thing here that we could move around. And we worked in here. There were about three of my colleagues
cool.
and I went to a lighthouse down in Florida.
I'm listening. Keep talking.
The Ponce Inlet Lighthouse. in
Check that
Florida.
out. Gosh. Yeah.
And they have a wonderful museum there. And they also have a shop that does restoration work on lenses like this.
Cool.
One of the few places in the country that
Yeah.
has the technical capability. And I went down there and I spent a day with the curator.
There you go, to kind of see how they did it, the
her
process.
assistant, and they basically trained me as best as they could in a day how to clean this.
Very neat.
They actually gave me some of the various materials. They're special paper towels that are specially made.
Isn't that to preserve it and to keep the history and
and to keep
gosh,
it.
yeah.
You know, over the years you can see.
Yeah, oh yeah, you can see it. Well, Ted, I'm going to run. Thank you. This has been a delight. I mean, it's just it's special to listen to you and to learn about this. And this is incredible stuff.
This is one of my prides and joys, interests.
It's just really
I've been
cool.
involved in lighthouses for over 30 years, up in Maine and up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And about 5 years ago, my wife and I moved down here to South Carolina.
From Maine?
Well, we moved from Maine to upstate New York, Oswego, New York, on Lake Ontario.
Oh yeah.
I was involved with a lighthouse up there.
Isn't that cool?
And then,
Isn't that neat? Well, again, let me run. Ted, thank you so much. This is just
you're welcome.
because people are going to see this all over the country. You hear me?
Well,
This is
great.
so cool. And let me kind of show going down here.
You gotta look at some of the other buildings.
Yeah, we went nose, which is really, really kind of neat, really cool.
There's some really neat stories. about the stuff, I mentioned about the oil.
Yeah, that's just.
I don't know if you noticed, in that building over there was a wooden box about yay big, about that high,
Okay.
about that wide.
Okay.
If you remember that. That was how the oil was delivered from the oil came on a tender from Charleston. There was a depot in Charleston where they had all the supplies.
So cool.
There was Johnson Creek. That was the last bridge you came over.
Uh-huh,
When
yeah.
you came onto Hunting Island.
Yes.
Johnson Creek,
Uh-huh.
there was a pier that went out into the creek. Now the tender...
That's where they bring it in right there and unload it.
Yeah, well, the tender couldn't get up Johnson Creek. It's too shallow. But they would anchor off in St. Helena Sound there, and then bring the oil and the other supplies in, unload them on the pier, and then this tram.
Yeah, I was going to ask this how they got here. Like they had a rail system.
There was a
Show the
rail
rail
line
system.
that went down.
You can see that.
Down out onto the pier, and then they loaded the supplies on that and either pushed it up here, or possibly, I know there are some lighthouses down here where the tram line is quite long. They actually hooked a horse up to it
And pulled it.
pulled it out.
Wow.
And then some things. And this one over here.
Yeah, I saw that. That's just cool stuff. Yeah.
One of the problems that you had here is that Hunting Island was a remote island.
Right. I read that. I mean, when you're here, you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could take you a day to get from Beaufort. And so there were some implications for that. Was what happens if somebody gets sick or somebody gets injured?
You better believe it. Yeah, good point.
You got a problem. I don't know if you saw that box in there that had some bottles and stuff. That was the station's medical chest.
Gosh,
if somebody
everything. Yeah.
was hurt, that was what you had to go to first.
That was your pharmacy.
Exactly. and your first aid kit. And in fact, they had a sad situation in 1911 where the keeper fell off a ladder while he was painting.
Yeah.
And he was seriously injured. They didn't seek medical attention for some reason, but his injuries got worse and worse, and eventually he ended up in a hospital in Charleston and died.
Golly day, yeah, it's just.
And then
9/11 back in those days didn't happen.
Exactly.
911 didn't happen. Golly.
Well, even though you had after 1918, there was a phone here. And
Okay.
you could call into Beaufort if you needed help.
Gotcha.
Still, could take a doctor a day to get here. And then the other thing was, how did you educate the kids? There were 3 families that live here. There might have been 6 or 8 kids.
That's a
How
good
did
point.
you
Yeah,
educate
just
the kids?
homeschooling, I guess, or.
You homeschooled them, but if you saw on the other side,
Yeah.
when you went in, there's that box of books. That
Yeah.
was what was called the traveling library. And every time the tender came, it brought one of those boxes of books.
Yeah, new books, new
New
supplies.
books, and then the keeper could they could request certain books. If they had kids, they could request books that would work.
Man.
And those came out of the district headquarters up in Charleston, and there was a ladies' auxiliary up there that collected the books and made sure there were
That's cool.
there were books in those boxes.
Man.
The other thing was food.
I guess they had to grow most of it. Of course, they can fish,
Exactly.
but you had
The
to grow
Lighthouse
most.
Service did provide some basic staple things like preserved meat and flour and sugar
Yeah,
and
yeah.
potatoes and things like that. But any kind of
Hey, y'all doing? Hey, gang. This is cool stuff, isn't it?
How do you like that DJI?
Fantastic.
Really?
Incredible. It's outstanding.
Is it?
Yeah, it's well worth it. Yeah, look it up and check. It's excellent.
I've got DJI everything else. I just don't have.
Osmo Pocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. I use the drone and the action and a bunch.
Oh man, you're way ahead of me. That's great though. That's cool. Ted, listen, I'm gonna run. Stay right here. Again, what a blessing it's been to talk with Ted here, the modern day keeper of the lighthouse. But anyway, thank you so much.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Again, thank you all to experience this with a silver-haired traveler. And again, be safe, be smart, and God bless.